Why, hello, welcome. I am Lady Genesis, and this is the Art Realm of Genesis. This week, I'm bringing you another painting. It's from the list of options I put up on the screen last week for things I want to do for fall. This week's choice was Miss Argentina from the Beetlejuice movie. When I was a child, I thought she was a beautiful character when I was watching the Beetlejuice movie long ago, and I know I'm showing my age here, but I've always loved her color palette. I've always loved her feistiness. She's always stuck out with me for many years, and I have never had the chance to paint or draw her. So I'm going to take it this year. I'm taking charge. I'm standing on business, and I'm here drawing this character. Before I officially get started, I feel like I need to address a couple of things. If you've watched the movie, we all know how she got there, and by there I mean the afterlife. I do not condone said behavior or actions that brought her there. This is why I purposely did not draw her hands. I just wanted to make that loud and clear. I normally don't like to get into super serious topics, but that one needed to be addressed, and now you know my standpoint. So going forward, let's keep it about the art and have fun. Now to get back to the art piece, Miss Argentina took me about 8 minutes to sketch. I thought a bust would be a great choice instead of doing a full body pic because, like I said before, I'm keeping her hands out of the picture. Of course, I did have to stop a couple of times to make sure that her face didn't get a little crooked because, like I said, drawing overhead or on a desk so that you guys can see it, but I'm at an angle kind of sucks sometimes because my stuff will come out a little crooked. So I did have to make sure I was on the right track. And this is the rough idea of what I'm going for. If you're wondering, yes, the sketch was part of day one, but I'm trying something different with my editing because honestly, it did take 3 days for me to finish this piece. It was a very busy week for me. And so I would paint at night or like afternoon going into the evening. And there are times I just had to stop and then continue the next day. Also, with all the painting and the layers of colors, I didn't want to keep painting on top of stuff because it was wet. And I didn't want to burn holes through my paper. I had to stop. So I figured I would break it up so you knew where I stopped and where I picked up the next day. Now, you're allowed to be honest with me. If the day cards break you from the immersion of the video, I will find a more subtle way to show off what day it is and go from there. But yeah, just leave a comment and I would love to hear some feedback. For day one, I used a very vibrant green, and then I went in after that and found a pastel looking green to go on top of it and dull out that first green. After that, I started using some blues and purples because she is gone and I needed to make sure she had that aesthetic. So under her eyes and in her crevices, she's got a little bluish purple going on. Now, because I was trying to give it more of a watercoloring feel and blend all these layers of colors together, I did end up using more water than I would like to admit to. And that's when I started seeing that the render paper was trying its best to hold on to the texture of the paper. So I had to let it dry quite a bit in order to start the next amount of colors. Once the skin kind of dried a little bit more, I started working on her hair. And for the hair, I used kind of an orangey red and a lot of pink because I noticed in the picture she did have highlights of different layers of pinks and reds within it. It wasn't a flat color. It was like multiple different colors within it. And then I also used some purple to kind of work on the shadowing underneath the hair. I always feel in this stage when I'm blending all the colors together, trying to get a foundation, I always low-key panic every time because I just think that I'm going to mess up the piece. So by the time the end of the night hit and I was ready to call it done, I really felt like it was looking kind of but I was like I always say, I'm going to trust the process and come back the next day and start working on the other pieces and see where I go from there. So overall for the first day, I got her skin down, her hair color down, also her cape and her outfit. I did put some color in her eyes and whatnot, but I wasn't completely sold on her lips. At that point, I just put the red there, but I wasn't really feeling how they looked, so I was thinking about coming back the next day, so I left it alone. But overall, that was day one in a nutshell. On day two, I started working out the details in her eyes. After sitting there thinking about it, and yes, I did paint some more on her mouth, but I just did not like it. I felt like maybe the mouth was too far back in the angle of her face. So after fiddling around with it, I actually ended up painting over it with green later on, and I started working out this shape. I wanted more of a cupid's bow because I noticed that in most of my art, I do tend to give my characters just a rounded upper lip where there is no cupid's bow really showing. But for her, I wanted to make sure it was prominent because she did have it very much defined in her face. And see right there, that's where I started painting over all of the mouth and letting it dry. So then I went back to the eyes and started working on eyelashes. And of course, I was also working on the purple underneath and around the eye to give it more of the gone look. I'm going to just call it the gone look. And I worked on her little nose. And this is where I started to shape out her mouth. And I think it was a better choice. I really do like how the shape turned out. And once I started adding the black line in the mouth to show it in the little white spot for the inside of her mouth, I felt like that's where it started to fall together into place. So day two was literally dedicated to adding more layers of green and more shadowing in places that needed to have it happen. Also working on her hair, her face details. It's just a touch-up day at this point. I also got the background in place and just started adding splotches of colors, and I was going to figure out in the next day what I wanted to do to finalize that background. And for day three, I went in and started working on her sash because no, I did not forget about it. Even though I painted everything else, I wanted to go back and do that last. I started with the paint marker, realized it was too thin for what I was trying to achieve. So yes, I cheated. I used acrylic paint for my white sash. I just can't seem to achieve that same layer of thickness for the white with the white watercolor. I just haven't figured it out yet, and maybe one day I will, and maybe one day I won't. I don't know. But yeah, so I just ended up using acrylic paint. And then I went back over with watercolor paint to give the shadowing underneath the sash and started working on that background while I waited for that white paint to dry. Once the white acrylic paint was good and dried, I started using the black paint marker to go in and start writing Miss Argentina, which I instantly realized was not going to work. So I had to break out the black acrylic paint to start writing those letters. And I used the paint marker to do the finishing touches on the font with the lines on the edges of the letters. Last but not least was the highlighting on the hair, outlining the body with black paint marker and just giving a few more finishing touches to the face with a little more green to make her pop. But overall, that is the end of Miss Argentina. No pun intended. That is a horrible joke, but yes, she was finally completed. After 3 evenings worth of hard work, she turned out beautiful, and I love the color palette, and I hope I stayed true to what she looked like in the movie, and you can tell me if it didn't, but I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, look at her in all her glory. She is so pretty. What do you guys think? Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode, and if you liked it, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. All of this helps my tiny little channel grow, and I deeply appreciate all of it, all of you, so thank you so much. Also, I do have a Patreon. It is 18 plus, but you can get a free membership, and there's also content on there that you might not always see on YouTube. So, if you're interested, please go check it out. I will be back with another fallish Halloween episode next week. So, until then, I will see you when I see you. Love you all. Bye.